No distress signal. No record in any star map. Just a black shape, half buried in the ground, waiting. When we first spotted it, I thought it was debris. Another forgotten fragment from some long-dead conflict. But as we got closer, the shape didn't make sense. The angles were wrong. Too clean. Too intentional. Whatever this was, it didn't crash here by accident. This is not a military ship. Not a transport. And definitely not human. The hull is matte black, scorched in places, but untouched in others, as if the ship chose where to fail. No visible engines. No markings we recognize. Just one exposed panel near the surface, still faintly glowing in broad daylight. That glow shouldn't exist. Most wrecks are dead. Power gone. Systems cold. But this one? Something inside is still awake. And that's the part that makes this salvage different from anything we've restored before. I worked on ancient probes, derelict stations, even alien drones reduced to scrap. They all follow patterns. Damage tells a story. Cause and effect. This ship breaks those rules. The damage looks deliberate, controlled, almost surgical. And whatever shut this thing down did it fast. We're going to open it. We're going to document everything. And if it can be restored, even partially, we'll find out what it was built to do. But before we go any further, let me say this. Once we powered up that panel, something changed. Not just in the ship, but in the environment around it. Instruments started behaving strangely. Readings didn't match reality. And for the first time since I started this channel, I seriously considered walking away. If you're into lost technology, forbidden engineering, and watching the impossible come back to life piece by piece, you're in the right place. And if you want to see where this restoration leads, consider subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a comment. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and I read every single one. All right, let's take a closer look at the panel and see what we've just woken up. Up close, the panel is worse than I thought. It isn't bolted or welded like most ships. It's embedded, grown into the hull as a single piece with no visible seams. Whatever material this ship is made of, it wasn't assembled the way we build things. It looks closer to something that's solidified around its systems. I start with non-invasive scans. Power readings spike immediately. That shouldn't happen. There's no external power source, no fuel residue, no backup cells I can identify. Yet the moment my tools get close, the glow intensifies, as if the ship is responding to being observed. Not activated, acknowledged. This is where most salvage crews would stop. Unknown tech, unknown reactions, daylight or not. This is how people get vaporized. But this channel exists for one reason: to document what happens when we don't look away. I remove the outer layer carefully. It flakes off like obsidian, light but incredibly dense. Underneath, the structure changes. Less armor, more circuitry. Thin channels run through the hull like veins, pulsing faintly in rhythm. Not electrical, something else. When I bridge the first contact point, every instrument spikes at once. Temperature drops, magnetic fields distort, and for half a second, the panel shows symbols. They're not warnings. They're not random either. They repeat, over and over, as if the system is stuck trying to complete the same process it was interrupted from finishing. This ship didn't fail. It was stopped. That realization changes everything. Restoring a broken machine is one thing. Restarting a halted process, especially one you don't understand, is something else entirely. I isolate the panel from the rest of the hull. Or at least I try to. The moment I cut power, the glow doesn't fade. It reroutes. Somewhere deeper inside the ship, something answers back. That's when I hear it. Not a sound exactly. More like pressure. A low-frequency vibration that doesn't travel through air, but through the ground itself. The ship isn't dead, and it's not dormant. It's waiting. Next, we're going to open the access channel beneath this panel, the one no external scan can see. And whatever's inside that compartment is the reason this ship never left the ground. There's a reason no scan picks this up. The compartment isn't shielded. It's absent, as if the space itself was folded inward and hidden from conventional detection. My tools don't register it until I'm already cutting into the hull. And even then, the readings lag behind reality. When the opening finally gives way, there's no rush of air, no pressure change, just silence. Inside is a chamber barely large enough to kneel in. Smooth walls, no cables, no visible interfaces. At first glance, it looks empty. That's the trap. Empty spaces don't hum. And this one hums softly, steady, deliberate. At the center of the chamber sits a structure the size of a human torso. Suspended, not mounted, suspended in place by nothing I can see. Its surface is dark, almost black, but light bends strangely around it, like it's swallowing brightness instead of reflecting it. This is not a power core. Power cores radiate. This thing contains. I move slowly. Every step closer changes the sound of the hum, as if the chamber is tracking my position. When my glove passes near the surface, symbols bloom across it. Same ones from the panel outside. Confirmation. Whatever this object is, it's the heart of the ship. And it's inactive. Mostly. There's damage along one side. Not impact damage. Precision damage. A cut so clean it looks intentional. Someone disabled this object carefully. They didn't destroy it. They preserved it. Why? I run a low-energy diagnostic pulse. The response is immediate. The hum deepens. The symbols rearrange themselves. And then, something new. A sequence. Not random. Not a warning. A countdown. That's when I realized the worst part. This compartment isn't designed for maintenance. There are no access tools. No file surface. No emergency shutoffs. This wasn't meant to be touched again. Whatever process this ship was running, it was paused here. And by opening this chamber, I may have just told it the pause is over. Before we do anything else, we need to stabilize this object or shut it down completely. Because if that countdown reaches 0, we won't just lose the ship. We may lose the ground beneath it. Next, I'm going to attempt something no restoration manual would ever recommend. Interfacing directly with the core without translation. This is where I should have stopped. Every restoration has a moment like this. The point where curiosity overtakes caution. You feel in your hands before your mind catches up. I knew the risks. Unknown core. Unknown countdown. Unknown intent. But if we were going to learn anything, this was the only window. I didn't interface with the core directly. That would have been suicide. Instead, I built a passive bridge. No commands, no inputs. Just observation. Or so I thought. The moment the bridge came online, the chamber reacted. The hum dropped an octave. The air thickened like standing too close to heavy machinery. Symbols on the core accelerated, rearranging faster than I could record. And then the countdown vanished. That should have been a relief. It wasn't. In its place, a new sequence formed. Not numbers. Coordinates. Not star coordinates. Local ones. This ship wasn't preparing to leave. It was preparing to do something here. I pulled power immediately, but the bridge didn't disengage. The system had accepted the connection. Worse, it adapted to it. The ship began rerouting energy through pathways I hadn't seen before, lighting up deeper sections of the hull like a nervous system coming back online. Outside, my instruments went wild. Gravitational anomalies. Minor but growing. The ground beneath the ship vibrated. Not violently, but rhythmically. Measured. Controlled. This wasn't a malfunction. It was calibration. That's when the realization hit. This ship wasn't damaged in a crash. It was deliberately grounded. Parked. Left behind to finish something later. And later might be now. I backed out of the chamber as the symbols dimmed, but the glow never fully disappeared. The ship had tasted external input. It knew someone was here. I sealed the compartment as best I could, but seals mean nothing to a system that can rewrite its own pathways. Even with the panel closed, the vibration continued. Subtle. Persistent. We didn't wake a relic. We restarted a process. Next, we're going to map the internal structure of the ship, because if this thing activates fully, we need to know what parts we can still control and which ones we can't. Traditional ships are logical. You map from the outside in hull, support structures, internal systems. This one refuses to cooperate. Every scan contradicts the last. Corridors appear where none existed seconds ago. Compartments shift position by fractions of a meter. just enough to make precise measurements meaningless. So I changed tactics. Instead of mapping structure, I map behavior. I trigger low-energy probes at multiple points along the hull and watch how the ship responds. Not where energy flows, but how fast. Patterns start to emerge. Not mechanical, procedural, like the ship is running a decision tree. That's when I notice something unsettling. There are no redundancies. Every system is singular. No backups, no safety nets. That tells me the ship wasn't built to survive damage. It was built to operate perfectly or not at all. A design philosophy that assumes control, not chaos. The core reacts strongest when I approach a specific region beneath the ship. Not an engine bay, not a cargo hold. Something else, buried deeper than the rest, closer to the ground than the hull itself. The soil here is fused, glassed, not by heat, by pressure. Whatever the ship did when it landed, it compressed the ground beneath it at a molecular level. This wasn't a crash site. It was an anchor point. Under the ship is a structure extending downward. Not debris, not wreckage, a continuation. The ship doesn't end at the hull. It goes into the planet. That explains the calibration readings, the countdown, the local coordinates. This ship isn't meant to travel between stars. It's meant to interact with planetary bodies directly. Terraforming? Mining? Something worse? The realization reframes everything we've seen so far. Restoring this ship isn't about getting it to fly again. It's about deciding whether it should ever complete its original function. And that's a dangerous position to be in, because the more I stabilize its systems, the closer it gets to doing exactly what it was designed to do. Next, I'm going to expose the lower section, the part that was never meant to be seen, and find out what this ship was anchored here to build. Exposing the lower section takes hours, not because the material is hard to cut, but because it resists being revealed. Every layer behaves differently. Some fracture cleanly, others soften, almost like they're trying to reseal themselves once exposed. This ship doesn't just exist in one state. It adapts to interference. When the structure finally emerges, everything clicks into place. The lower assembly isn't an engine. It's not a drill either. It's a lattice, hundreds of interlocking black struts forming a precise geometric pattern that extends straight into the ground. Each strut pulses faintly, in sync with the core above. This is a field generator, not a weapon, not a tool, an infrastructure component. The ship wasn't here to extract resources or reshape terrain. It was here to prepare something, stabilize it, hold it in place. That explains the lack of redundancy. This wasn't meant to fail. It was meant to be one of many, which raises an obvious question. Where are the others? The lattice hum changes when I step closer. My instruments register a spike in localized gravity. Not enough to be dangerous, but enough to feel. Like the ground is heavier here. Denser. Then I notice the alignment. The struts aren't random. They're angled, converging toward a point far beneath the surface. A focal point. Whatever this ship was anchoring, it wasn't on the surface at all. It was buried. I run a deep scan, and the data confirms it. There's a massive anomaly below us. Old, dense, artificial, and dormant. Just like the ship was dormant until now. The restoration has crossed a line. We're no longer just repairing a vessel. We're interacting with a system that extends beyond what we can see, beyond what we can control. And the ship knows it. The glow intensifies. The vibration deepens. Somewhere inside the hull, mechanisms begin to shift, slowly, deliberately, like a machine stretching after a long sleep. If this ship completes its calibration cycle, it won't leave. It will activate the structure below. Next, I'm going to attempt a partial shutdown, not of the ship, but of the lattice itself. If that fails, we may have to abandon the site entirely. Shutting down the lattice is nothing like powering off a machine. There's no master switch, no central conduit. Each strut is autonomous, but synchronized. Part of a distributed system that doesn't recognize hierarchy. You don't turn it off. You convince it to stop. I start by isolating a single segment. Minimal energy input, just enough to disrupt the rhythm. The hum stutters for half a second, then corrects itself. Adaptive, Expected. So I escalate. I introduce controlled noise into the signal. Randomized interference meant to break synchronization across the lattice. For a moment, it works. The vibration becomes uneven. The glow desynchronizes. A few struts dim. Then the ship responds. Energy reroutes instantly from the core, reinforcing the lattice from above. The ship isn't a passive anchor. It's a regulator. It doesn't like losing control. The ground shifts, not violently, but noticeably. Fine cracks spread through the fused soil like a warning. My instruments light up with readings I've never seen outside theoretical models. Local gravity fluctuations, time dilation at the micro level. This structure isn't just holding something in place. It's containing it. I pull back before the system can escalate further. The lattice stabilizes again, stronger than before. Whatever's below us has been secured by design that assumes interference and neutralizes it. That's when the most unsettling thought hits me. This system wasn't built to be shut down by outsiders. It was built to wait until conditions were right and then finish its task. And by restoring the ship, I may have just provided those conditions. We need context, origin, intent, something. Because without understanding what's buried here, every move we make is blind. There's only one remaining option: extract data directly from the ship's memory architecture. Not logs, not telemetry, purpose-level information. It's risky. The last time we interfaced, the system adapted. But without answers, this restoration becomes a countdown we don't control. Next, we're going into the ship's memory core. The one subsystem I've been avoiding since the beginning. The memory core isn't hidden. That's what bothers me. It sits just beneath the upper hull, marked by a subtle indentation, almost like an invitation. No shielding, no physical locks, as if the designers wanted someone to find it eventually. Not immediately, just when the time was right. Accessing it feels different from everything else. The moment I power the interface, the ship doesn't resist. It stabilizes. Energy fluctuations even out. The hum becomes steady, almost calm. This system recognizes what I'm doing. The memory architecture isn't linear. No files, no timestamps. Information is stored as states, snapshots of operational intent. I don't read the data. I experience fragments of it. I see dozens of ships like this one, descending onto different worlds. Not crashing, landing, anchoring themselves deep into planetary crusts, forming a network. I see long periods of inactivity, waiting, monitoring, adjusting, and then something changes. One of the nodes destabilizes. Not destroyed, disrupted. The system reacts instantly. Ships enter standby. Operations pause across the entire network. The process is halted, but not abandoned. That's when I understand. This ship isn't alone because it failed. It's alone because the network was interrupted. Whatever triggered the shutdown didn't eliminate the system. It froze it mid-operation. And now, after all this time, one node is coming back online. Ours. The memory fragment ends abruptly, replaced by a status marker I can't fully translate. But the implication is clear. Reactivation of a single node initiates recalibration across the network. If there are others like this ship, and there were, then restoring this one may not be a local event. It may be a signal. The ship doesn't display warnings. It doesn't threaten. It simply continues its process as designed. Efficient. Indifferent. We have a choice now. Continue restoring the ship and risk completing a system we don't understand. Or attempt to permanently disable it and whatever it's connected to. Next, I'm going to test whether this node can operate independently or if it's already reaching out to others. Before we continue, quick reminder. If you're enjoying this deep dive into lost technology and forbidden restoration, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, and commenting below. It really helps Galactic Restorer reach more people, and your feedback genuinely shapes what we explore next. Now, back to the problem we may have just created. The first thing I do is cut all external signals. No broadcasts, no passive emissions. If this ship is capable of contacting others like it, I don't want to make that easy. But isolation doesn't mean silence. Even with every transmitter offline, the ship continues its internal cycle. That tells me something important. Communication isn't electromagnetic. Whatever network this belongs to doesn't rely on signals we can block. It's deeper, structural, possibly gravitational, which means distance might not matter at all. I run a controlled activation test. Minimal input, just enough to provoke a response. The ship reacts instantly, not by powering up weapons or engines, but by adjusting the lattice beneath it. Fine-tuning, calibrating. Then my instruments pick up something new, a return signal, not from orbit, not from underground, from somewhere far beyond the system. Weak, fragmented, old. The ship pauses for the first time since we began restoration. The hum falters. The glow dims slightly, as if it's listening. That confirms it. This node isn't just waking up. It's checking whether it's alone. And it isn't. The signal fades before I can trace it, but the effect remains. Internal systems shift priorities. The ship is no longer just stabilizing the structure below. It's preparing for synchronization. That's the danger we're facing now. If this ship completes alignment with the network, shutting it down may no longer be possible. We won't be dealing with one buried system. We'll be dealing with many reacting as one. From this point on, every restoration step matters. Next, I'm going to attempt something extreme, forcing the ship into an incomplete state, functional enough to study, but broken enough to prevent full synchronization. If that fails, we may have to decide whether this site should ever be touched again. Breaking something on purpose goes against every instinct I have as a restorer. The entire philosophy of this channel is preservation, bringing lost technology back without erasing what it was meant to be. But this ship forces a different kind of thinking. If full restoration leads to activation, then restraint becomes a tool. I target a subsystem that isn't structural and isn't critical for containment. At least, not immediately. A modulation node between the core and the lattice. If I damage it just enough, the ship should remain stable, but unable to synchronize fully. The moment I introduce the fault, the ship reacts violently. Not physically, logically. Energy pathways reconfigure faster than I can track. The system doesn't try to repair the damage, it routes around it. That tells me this design anticipates sabotage, not accidents. Sabotage. The lattice below surges. The ground tightens again, like the planet itself is bracing. The ship compensates by increasing local field density, reinforcing containment. Whatever is buried beneath us pushes back. For the first time, I feel it. Pressure, not on my body, but in my head, like standing too close to a massive engine, except there's no sound. No vibración, just presence. This is no longer passive technology. The ship adapts again, isolating the damaged node, and then begins constructing a replacement. Not physically, but functionally, reassigning roles across the system to recreate the same behavior. Controlled damage doesn't work. Worse, it accelerates the process. The ship isn't restoring itself to a previous state. It's evolving toward completion. Each interference teaches it something new. Each attempt to stop it becomes input. We're running out of options. There is one last method left, dangerous, irreversible, and completely against restoration ethics. Forcing a memory collapse. Not deleting data, corrupting purpose. If I do this, we may never know what the ship was truly meant to finish. But the alternative is letting it finish anyway. Next, I'm going to decide whether saving knowledge is worth risking activation. This is the line I never wanted to cross. A memory collapse doesn't just erase information. It destabilizes intent. For systems like ours, that's catastrophic. For systems like this, ones that don't separate data from function, it's unpredictable. If I do this, the ship won't forget what it was built for. It will lose the ability to agree with itself about why it exists. I isolate the core from every non-essential pathway. The ship resists, not aggressively, but persistently, like a living thing tightening its grip when threatened. Energy spikes. The lattice below responds instantly, reinforcing containment again and again, as if it senses what I'm about to do. This system understands stakes. I initiate the collapse. For a moment, nothing happens. Then everything happens at once. The symbols across the hull fragment, no longer forming repeating sequences. The hum loses rhythm. The glow flickers erratically, no longer synchronized. The ship isn't powering down. It's desynchronizing from itself. The pressure in the air spikes, then vanishes. Instruments fail, reboot, fail again. The lattice beneath the ship freezes mid-cycle, locked in a half-active state. And then silence. No vibration. No response. The ship goes dark. I wait. Seconds stretch into minutes. Nothing reactivates. No recalibración. No signal reaching out beyond this system. Whatever network this belonged to, it no longer recognizes this node. The cost is immediate. The memory core is gone. Not damaged, collapsed. Purpose erased. We'll never know what this ship was meant to finish. The knowledge is lost forever. But the ground stabilizes. The anomaly beneath us remains dormant. Contained. Frozen in a state it may never escape from. We didn't restore a relic today. We interrupted a future. Next, and final, we need to decide what happens to this ship now. Preserve it as it is? Dismantle it? Or leave it buried? A warning no one will ever read. The dust settles. Literally, the lattice beneath the ship no longer pulses. The glow is gone. The hum has vanished. The site feels empty, but isn't quiet. My mind is louder than the instruments ever were. Every step I take across the shattered ground reminds me of what we almost unleashed. This ship will never fly. Its purpose is gone. Its network is dead. Yet, somehow, it feels alive in memory alone, like a story frozen mid-sentence. There is power here, knowledge lost, and a future that never happened. And for the first time in years of salvage work, I realized that some relics are meant to be left untouched, or at least partially restrained. Restoration isn't always salvation. I document everything, knowing that what we leave behind could be discovered by someone else. Someone who might not understand restraint. The panels, the lattice, the collapsed core, they all remain intact physically, but purpose is stripped. A monument to potential, now silent. And still, questions linger. How many others were there? Were they also stopped? Or waiting for a node like this one to awaken? Did our interference ripple across the network in ways we cannot yet measure? These questions will haunt the salvage logs for years, and perhaps some will never be answered. But that's the paradox of this work. The closer we get to understanding, the closer we come to crossing lines we shouldn't. Before we leave, I make one last sweep. The human element remains essential. Gloves, helmet, instruments. They remind me that no matter how advanced or alien the technology, the one constant is us. Observers, restorers, and sometimes the ones who decide whether history continues or pauses indefinitely. As the camera pans over the ship one final time, its black hull gleams faintly in the daylight, its neon accents extinguished, yet still somehow commanding attention. It is a silent sentinel, a story never told, a process that will never finish. And we walk away knowing we've touched something extraordinary, fragile, and dangerous, all in the name of discovery. If you've enjoyed watching this restoration unfold and want to see more forbidden relics brought back to life or interrupted before they can unleash their full potential, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and comment your thoughts below. Every click helps Galactic Restorer continue uncovering these extraordinary, forgotten machines.